You're listening to an episode of the Break the Cycle podcast on the SVTV network. Hey folks, welcome to episode 4. I've got a very special guest today, Neharika Gupta. She's an author, creative writer, she's a yoga practitioner, and a fellow martial artist, so that makes it awesome. We've had a very interesting conversation. We're going to be talking about some of the challenges that millennials and the Gen Z face, which is the subject of her book, Adulting. Do check that one out. We're also going to talk about how to let out your creative expression without putting the filters of what is someone going to think about it, which is very, very, very important. And we also spoke about how she manages to cut out the noise in this very information-heavy world. Like, we're constantly distracted with social media, the noise around us with respect to people's opinions, and so much more. And sometimes getting your thoughts out there or your expression out there in the truest form possible is a task. So that's something we definitely will be touching upon. I hope you enjoy the episode, and as always, I look forward to your feedback. We've also tried to make this one a little shorter from what someone mentioned, that 50 minutes is too long. So I hope this kind of sorts that out. Do reach out to me on Instagram. I'm on Aadhar Malhotra at Instagram, ADHAR MALHOTRA. Yes, exactly like the card. And my email address is the same at gmail.com. I hope you enjoy. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Break the Cycle. I have a very special guest with me today. She's the author of the best-selling book, Adulting. Please welcome Neharika Gupta. Hey, Neharika.
Hi.
Hi. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I started writing the book during my master's in creative writing. It was my final thesis.
Right.
And this was in England. When I came back to India, I completed the book.
Okay. What is the book about for our audience?
So the book is about 3 characters, 3 millennial people who live in Delhi. One is a social media influencer, one is a books editor, and one is an author himself. So 2 girls, 1 guy, the challenges that they go through, which includes stuff like social media addiction, identity crisis, writer's block, a love triangle, and so on.
A love triangle?
Yes.
Right. I'm going to park that one aside for a second. What led you to write this one? Because, this is an interesting subject because a lot of us kind of have this whole search of how do we get over social media addiction and all of those things. So what led you to write the book?
I think a lot of the things that I've seen while growing up, a lot of the way that I've seen people around me, my friends, people my age who aren't my friends, how they're living their lives. And there's a way that we can do things a little better. We need to be a little more in touch with ourselves. We need to filter all the social media, all the information that's coming in. And it just gets really hard to connect with yourself at times. And if we don't do that, it gets really hard to understand what we want when it comes to making big decisions like maybe a job, a change in country, even getting married.
Right. So I want to move. I'm going to park the book for a second, and I want to talk to you about some of your early history. What led you to becoming an author specifically?
So I've always been a reader. I've always been into Harry Potter, Aragon. I've just always been a bit of a bookworm. And I did English honors from LSR because I wanted to write. But it turned out that course was more about criticism, literary criticism of maybe the period, say, for example, when Pride and Prejudice was written. So it wasn't so much as about the craft of writing, but I was around books, which was good.
Right.
I took a gap year after college
Okay.
to explore different kinds of things, media, journalism, maybe the film business. I did a filmmaking course, but after a whole year of doing different things, it all, even advertising, copywriting, it all came back to books.
Right.
So I worked in publishing.
Okay.
And I was really happy. Like, I was a person who was excited to go to office on Monday. I had the most ideas. I wanted to work with every department, like PR, marketing, what's happening in sales, like tell me everything.
Uh-huh.
But then overnight, I just wanted to be the person who was writing the book,
Right.
not editing somebody else's book. And
Right.
it just happened overnight. And within 2-3 months of that realization, I found myself in England. I was applying for a master's in creative writing for a year later,
Right.
but serendipitously, it just happened, and I was doing my master's in creative writing.
Awesome. But all right. So when you were writing this book, or let's kind of step away from this book for a second. Did you try and write anything else apart from adulting? Like, were there any challenges that you faced with respect to just getting content out there? Or were there any challenges? Because a lot of people even have this thing of, at least families, also have this thing of, what are you going to do with writing? Like, why don't you just get a job?
Well, luckily, my family was very, very supportive that way. But the challenge I did have was I was very influenced by the Nirbhaya incident.
Okay.
And my first book, the one that I applied to my university with,
Right.
was about a rape survivor who goes into a reality TV show, and then she faces all the prejudices, good and bad, by people on the show.
Right.
However, that was a very mature book, and my manuscript tutor advised me to maybe hold on to that idea, explore it a little later, because it was going to be a tough book emotionally.
Right.
So that's the
yeah.
idea that I've shelved.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any plans of taking that one out?
Maybe in a couple of years. I'm leaning towards fantasy, but you'll have to wait and watch to see what happens there.
Right. So, what are the so as you know, we're called Break the Cycle because we're trying to figure out ways to kind of break out of autopilot, at least in life. So, what are some of the cycles or personal cycles that you had to break? Something that helped you reach this vision of, I want to be a writer and I want to write this book specifically?
I think the biggest thing for me was actually completing the book.
Okay.
There have been points when, while writing the book, it was like, I'm just sitting here and writing this book, but what's going to happen? Is somebody going to publish it? Or what if people don't like it? Is what I'm writing even worth being read by somebody? Like, do I even have a message to go out? So, and then these things are all fine, but when they bother you, when you're in your writing space of like those 2-3 hours, then you really have to exercise a lot of mental strength in order to complete the book. And then after that, you have to have a lot of belief in your work to actually send your work to an agent or a publishing house. Maybe for a while I was scared to press the send button because I was afraid of hearing what are they going to say? Are they going to reject me? Are they not going to like me? So that was terrifying. Like, even more than writing the book, just pressing the send button, creating the email like 20 times. So that was a cycle I had to get out of.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other ones, like, not related to writing or just in general? Like, my biggest one, which I'm still kind of battling, is procrastination.
Oh.
I'm thankfully getting out of it, but procrastination happens to be the cycle that I've kind of been working on breaking.
Yeah.
So is there any such thing with you?
Yeah, I think figuring out what I want in life, because I have a few close friends, family members. So parents can say whatever they want. But when friends and family, when people my age, my close friends, they say stuff to me about my life and how I'm living it, that really strikes a chord sometimes. And I have to sit down with myself and tell myself, ki, nahi Neharika, this is what you want to do in your life. And it's okay for other people to think whatever they want. That's still really tough for me to deal with.
I think that's a larger issue that all of us kind of face right now, don't we? Like, you've kind of gone in detail in your book as well, the challenges that millennials, and I don't know if post-millennial is a term, but yeah,
Gen Z.
I kind of go with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like the whole Gen Y thing, but anyway. Yeah, so millennials and Gen Z, and you've kind of gone into the issues there as well.
Mm-hmm.
You think that, I mean, let's elaborate. I think we can touch upon those as well. So, what are the common issues that we all face? Do you want to elaborate on that during your research for the book?
Sure. I think a lot of girls, when they put up pictures online,
Yeah.
they tend to face body shaming comments, or if somebody's put on a little weight, maybe they're a bit reluctant to
Uh-huh.
put on pictures online on social media.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a thing I think guy or girl, everybody faces.
Right.
Then that's with the character Aisha. My character Ruhi, she has an amazing vision for her publishing house,
Mm-hmm.
but she's not really confident enough to get it out there.
Okay.
And it doesn't help that her mother is her boss.
Oh.
Yeah. Layers.
Alright.
Yeah. So she has a tough time getting her vision across and having the publishing house take it on. And even after she does, eventually it comes to a close and she has to find her own way.
Mm-hmm.
But she struggles and she finds her way. That's her journey. So I think that's pretty common with people. And if somebody's a creative person,
Mm-hmm.
finding ways to get over creative blocks, people, a lot of times people don't know how to. Maybe I've been guilty of that as well. Like sometimes you tend to have a drink and write, or you go out and party, or you try to get experiences from the wrong places.
Mm-hmm.
So you just have to keep your eyes open.
Define
or
wrong places.
maybe I'll tell you after the podcast. Okay, so the character in my book, he abuses Tinder a little bit. Because he's just trying to find interesting things to write about. So he's putting himself through interesting experiences. But that is the wrong source of inspiration for him.
Okay.
Right? So there are other things which he ends up writing about which actually have a message in them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if you're into maybe designing, writing, poetry, songwriting, there are ways to tap into the creativity productively and healthily.
Right. Do you have some ways that you can share with people?
Yeah, sure. So I love going for long walks. If I'm stuck about what to write about, I always try and read different types of books. I love Tumblr. I love fantasy, TV shows. So whatever I'm interested in, I try to expose myself to more of that.
Okay.
And it just strikes. But one thing is really important, to not just take in all the information, for example, that Netflix or Prime is throwing at you. You really have to filter.
Yeah, double-edged sword there.
Yeah.
Because I really, really like Netflix. I do like Prime as well, but I also find this is an unpopular opinion. I'm sure I'm probably going to get a lot of blowback for this, but I can't stand them anymore. Because the amount of information that's just being thrown at you and that whole habit of binging just really takes up a crazy amount of your time. I think YouTube and social media in general, the same thing. And I happen to work as someone who puts out a lot of content on social media, or at least handles clients, and I have to do that. But I think that, like you said, right, those are some of the issues that we're all facing. Social media addiction, there's the whole Netflix and Prime thing.
So Netflix and Prime, in the sense, I'm sure there are amazing shows there, but you have to search a bit. Right. So as long as you don't just go and click something that looks good, you just think a bit about the kind of stuff you like watching. It's going to like maybe inspire you. That's one aspect. But the social media addiction, just when you're just sitting waiting for somebody, your thumb automatically goes to Instagram, right?
Yeah.
So the effects of that, I'm really worried that our attention spans are coming down. We can't focus on anything, and I'm really worried about how Gen Z is gonna take to all of this, because we need to focus, right? If you're doing something important, it's like you feel like smoke, you feel like Instagram.
Oh God.
Social media is like the new smoking, I like to say.
Yeah, I gotta kind of inject a little bit of it.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's dopamine, right?
Yeah.
It's exactly like a drug. That's how Instagram works. So on Facebook, you used to get likes for notifications for likes, but now you get it for so many other things, just because Facebook is trying to.
Oh lordy.
Yeah, I mean, if you read about, I think one of the founders of, not the founders, one of the core people of Facebook, he's actually gone on record stating this, that it's meant to work like an addiction. It's really scary.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Oh, and also India is so this is coming a bit onto the selfie thing,
Yeah.
but India is a country where the most number of deaths have happened due to selfies, taking
Oh, yeah,
selfies.
yeah. I read that stat somewhere.
Yeah.
My God,
Yeah.
that's... Yeah. But I think that's more about appearances. I mean, wait, a
No,
selfie
it's
does end up going on social media.
exactly. And TikTok.
Oh, yeah,
What is
that's the
your
new thing.
opinion on TikTok?
I'd rather keep it to myself. No, okay. So I think that, my personal opinion on social media is it's a powerful, powerful, powerful tool.
Hmm.
It's a great way to get a message out. It's a great way to get some information as well. If and only if you're using it wisely, you're actually conscious of your usage. But like, even for me, like the whole Instagram thing and the notifications bit, the whole dopamine hit thing, oh man, that is kind of scary. That's one thing that where even I go, wow, that's... Because all of us kind of suffer from it, right? We're all gonna, like, middle of the conversation, you're gonna pick up your phone and just go, okay, let me check my feed.
No, I don't do that.
I've had people who've done that in front of me, and I've been guilty of that as well. Coming back to your characters, like, how'd you come up with those? Because they seem to have very specific issues, and they're specific to the issues that we're discussing. Like, each one of them, one's a social media influencer, so clearly the whole Instagram dopamine bit seems to be there. And there's another person who's, you mentioned the author, the editor, who wants to know if he's got a message or not.
The author.
The author, sorry.
And the editor with the identity crisis.
Right.
So I feel like I've divided myself into 3 people. That's how the book has come about.
Damn. Elaborate.
Well, so I can say that I've faced these challenges in different ways throughout growing up, but mostly maybe from the end of college to even right now. Yeah, so I tend to have creative blocks as well, though I never went the drastic way that they just did.
Right.
I do tend to, I know now how to deal with creative blocks. That's probably the thing that I know the best. But I do have I'm sure that I'm sort of having like a little identity crisis right now. Like, I have a lot of ideas about what else to do, not for my next book, but otherwise in terms of content, because I like creative writing, blogs, all of that. So I'm just trying to find ways to get it out there, and I don't know what I represent. Also, there are these things like, what am I representing on my social media? Am I showing, do I talk about my book? Do I talk about my challenges?
Right. Nice.
Yeah.
That really helps. How did you kind of, if... Just a very, very straightforward question. Are there any actionable steps that you have for people? Because I think your book kind of dives into that as well. Very actionable steps on what we can do to kind of get over some of these challenges or break out of some of these routines or habit patterns that we've made with respect to, say, social media or an identity crisis.
Sure, I would say that maybe on a weekend, just take some time and sit with yourself and just ask yourself what you want. Are you happy with how your life is going? You may be surprised at the answer. There are a lot of resources as well online. Some of them are on my website. Some of them are books like Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. So what they do is they give you a series of exercises, tasks. It might ask you to say list 25 passions of yours. And then you'll realize that, okay, out of 25, I can start 2 today, which you haven't even thought of. It's very easy for you to access them.
Right.
And there are things like, when you were growing up, if somebody said something negative to you about a really creative idea, it's possible that that's become a core belief. So you have to start unpacking that or acknowledging that, and it's gonna just help you with a bit of freedom in order to move forward with your life. Yeah.
Speaking about passion, what do you say to those people who, because I've actually had conversations like these where someone's actually said, I don't know what my passion is, I don't have any.
I don't think that's possible though. I'm sure they have some interest in something, like in the
Mhm.
sense everybody has a niche of things like uh you like martial arts, I like
Mm.
martial arts. Some people like martial art movies, right? So what
Right.
if they just take a class?
Mhm.
Or if somebody likes a certain kind of music, if they want to pick up an instrument and try it, or even if they just want to deep dive into that niche of music,
Right.
it's just something like that creative feeling. Or even if somebody's in business, or if somebody's in marketing, it's about having that creative spark
Mhm.
to get what you have out there.
Right.
So I think you can bring your passion to your work as well if it allows.
Mhm. Awesome. That brings me to my second last question.
uh,
What do you want the person sitting at home to take away from this conversation? 3 or 4 things.
yeah.
What do you want them to take away from this?
Okay, so I want you to take away the fact that if there are things which feel incomplete in your life, or
Mhm.
if there are things that you want to do, there is a way for you to access that if you maybe just make time for yourself and sit down and start writing about it or discussing it with people. So I would say that don't don't behave in a way that you have regrets later on.
Mhm.
So even if that is your go-to for this process, you should totally try that. The second thing is explore yourself in different ways. Try different things so you will maybe understand things you like different sports.
Mhm.
Maybe if you're not into gym, into working out, you try cult, I don't know, you try kickboxing. I think yeah, so one big thing is exercise. Like I really want people to exercise more, and not just for health but for their
Mhm.
mental hygiene.
Oh man.
It just really
Yeah.
helps. Like that's the reason why I started exercising. I was in England, I was all alone. The
It really
halfway.
opens your head up, right? I mean, like
Yeah,
all these ideas start coming in. The
yeah,
weird part is that when I heard that, I was like,
yeah,
"What are you guys talking about? Like,
yeah,
that sounds like bullshit." I mean, there's just
yeah,
you work out, you get fitter. How does
yeah.
that affect your brain? And then
No,
finally, I was like, "Oh wait, no,
it does.
your brain really starts to go right after that."
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's more important for the brain than your body.
Um.
And the third thing is find a way to filter all the information that's coming to you. Uh, Ads on TV, what you're watching on Netflix, what you're watching on Prime, the
Mhm.
music suggestions that you're getting on Spotify. I mean, it's great to discover stuff,
Mhm.
but don't just take in stuff that's thrown at you, because understand that there's a lot of money, marketing, advertising, and that there may be better stuff that you enjoy engaging with more. So it's still there on Netflix, it's still there on Spotify. You just have to look a little deeper, and this is gonna add layers of meaning, happiness. It's just gonna round out of all the rough edges. It's
Right.
just gonna make the whole experience of life a little softer, more fun.
More conscious in a
Yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah.
Because what you mentioned was was something that we discussed with another guest of mine,
Mhm.
Zoya,
Mhm.
who has this brand called Asli, which is all about
Mhm.
sustainable fashion. And she
Right.
was talking about conscious consumption,
Mhm.
and that was more from a physical sense that we were talking about, like like actual physical consumption,
Right.
buying stuff.
Right.
But yeah, this is an important point. You got to
Mhm.
like what you're consuming online as
Mhm.
well has to be a conscious effort.
Yeah.
Damn.
Your brain just soaks in stuff. Like if you just enter a room, I just enter the kitchen, and the help is listening to the radio, and it's like a song I don't even pay attention to, but 10 minutes later it's in my head, and
In your
I'm
head.
like, damn, there's so many things getting into my brain that I don't want it to, but it
Yeah.
just is. So that's super important.
Man, we live in a noisy, noisy world.
Yes. Yes. And it's only getting noisier.
Oh yeah. Thank you, Neharika. My last question: where can these people reach out to you?
Okay, so I have a website, neharikagupta.com, neharikagupta.com.
Mm-hmm.
I have an Instagram page, neharika Gupta, Neharika Gupta 23. And yep, my book Adulting is available on Amazon and in all the bookstores around.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been a very lovely conversation.
Yes, it was fun.
Guys, take it from me. The book is brilliant. Go to Amazon, check her book out. And definitely reach out to her because that conversation, like this one, is going to be lovely. And until next time, we'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
You're listening to an episode of the Break the Cycle podcast on the SVTV network.